Where are you right now? I keep forgetting. Like, you're in America now?
Yeah, I'm in America. I'm just south of Seattle.
South of Seattle.
Yeah, it's still in the Pacific Northwest, so it's about the same, well far north as you are.
Oh, okay. So, like, as far north as humanly possible for Denmark. Okay. Have we gotten any snow yet?
Not in Seattle, no.
No. Okay.
Some of the folks back home are talking about snow, but not here.
And home is
Back in Canada.
back in Canada. Okay, so yeah. Hi, Luke. Welcome to this little interview here. I'm glad you wanted to do this. And
Yeah, it's fun.
and of course, welcome everyone to this interview with Luke, the man Mckay. Well, why don't you introduce yourself? Why don't you tell everyone who are you?
Hello, I'm Luke Mckay. I'm the illustrator of Rooster Teeth Comics and the author and illustrator of the comic series Balls to That.
Wow, that sounded super professional. How often do you do that?
A fair bit. I do a lot of the conventions, and often at conventions there's a lot of public speaking with that. So.
Oh yeah, of course. Let me. It's a little louder. Okay. As always, I have prepared some questions, and the viewers have asked some questions. So I figured, why not start with mine and work our way to the viewers, and then just go from there. So, my first question is, what's the best and worst about your job?
The best and worst about my job. The best, first off, has to be the commute. I walk from my bedroom over to the desk, and that is all of 5 minutes. Previous jobs I've had have had anywhere from like hour to 2 hour commutes each way, and I love not driving.
I can imagine. What works with that? I know, but maybe people don't.
Yeah. As for the worst of it, it's just the hard part is just being the master of your own destiny, where if you want to succeed, you have to put the work in, which means it's nice being at home in this nice lazy environment, which you have to then crack the whip at yourself and say, get to work. And that's a hard thing to do, of like when you're all nice and comfy in your pajamas and it's like, oh, I can work in my pajamas. And you're like, no, you need to work. Like, get to it, man.
Also, I before we continue on to the next, I just realized I love that you are in the Luke Mckay getup. Like, this is what I have in my head whenever I think Luke Mckay. The green t-shirt, the black shirt, and the black cap. Is this something that you do, or?
No, actually, all my clothes are this. About 10 years ago, I threw out all my clothes and just bought several sets of the same clothes, and I wear this all the time. I have a black suit. I have a few like grubby t-shirts for when I paint, but that's it. I have just the same set of clothes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Personal uniform. I got the idea from Albert Einstein. He threw out all his clothes and just bought 7 sets of the same clothes, so he never had to think about what to wear, and he didn't waste time picking out his clothes and had more time for studies, which I find really does make a difference. I spend no time choosing my clothes.
Holy shit! I did not know that.
Yeah.
Learning with Luke. Next question is, what is your daily life like? Like when you're not working with art and writing and shit.
If I'm not working, if I'm not drawing, I'm pretty much a house husband. You know, I like to cook and clean. I just moved to America, so I'm not really eligible to work, so I can do comics. I can sit around and draw comics, but my wife works all day, and so I just kind of keep house and I cook and clean and learning to bake and little things like that.
Learning to bake. That's right. For those of you who don't know, you and I, we've written to each other a few times, but we've never actually spoken like this. So this will be a perfect opportunity for me to congratulate you on becoming a husband, getting married.
Yeah. Waited a long time. I was engaged for a fair bit, and then we got all married all of a sudden. Like as soon as I crossed the U.S. border, we had 90 days to get married. So we got married in quite a bit of a hurry.
Yeah, I just remember sitting there looking through my Twitter, and then it's just like your wife going, "Yeah, yeah, we're married now," and I was like, "What?" It was all of a sudden, but yeah, man, congratulations. That's lovely.
Thank you.
So, well, you're mentioning a lot of husband and stuff like that, but you you got a pretty impressive collection of Halo gear behind you. Like, no video games?
Yeah, I have a bit of a love for Halo. Yeah, Halo 5 has been out and playing that a lot. Also, I am in the Seattle area now, so I'm close to the 343 studios and got to meet a lot of the artists who work on Halo. So
No
that's been
shit.
quite fun. Yeah, yeah. I've been really intertwined with the Halo community since Halo 1 came out.
Okay.
Yeah, just I guess the thing with working at Red versus Blue, you kind of get to meet the guys at Bungie and 343.
Okay. We'll get to that because yeah. Uh, well, this is kind of like this is me asking this, not in a interview way, but just as a fanboy, because as you know, I love the stuff you do. So this is kind of me fanboying a little. How the hell did you discover my shitty little show?
Web search. Well, I was looking for a lot of webcomic reviews online just to, mail off my comics and just to whoever was reviewing. And most of them I found online were just like these simple, very text-based, very bland-looking websites. So when I typed webcomic reviews on YouTube, I was really quite surprised to see your show pop up first thing. And because it's right now, you're like the only YouTuber, I think, reviewing webcomics.
There are a few. There's actually a site called Webcomic Relief. It's not mine.
Yeah.
Who's gaining a lot of traction from what I hear. And there's one more video reviewer of it, but other than that, I don't really know, many
Mm.
who really.
But yeah, mostly the people just do text reviews,
Yeah.
which just they don't connect as well. I find I really like your show because it really makes a much better human connection.
I'm happy to hear that. And of course, I did a review of Balls to Dad. What did you think of that?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I get to work and I'm just kind of like just zoning out, not working well, I put it on in the background to kind of like think about like what am I drawing, and it's nice to listen to it over and over as I draw. Also, I'm just egotistical, so I like hearing about myself.
Oh, you too. Same here. Um, I don't. I mentioned this in the video where I asked people to ask their questions, but keep it on topic, because I didn't want just to talk about your involvement with Rooster Teeth. There is a guy other than the Luke Mckay from Rooster Teeth. There's the amazing creator behind Balls to Dead, but how involved have you been in those things? Like, that's probably the only question I have about that.
Like how much was I involved with Rooster Teeth?
With Red versus Blue, with Rooster Teeth. Well, how did you get started with the Rooster Teeth comics? All that stuff.
Yeah. Well, the Rooster Teeth site has a really active community. It was super active like early in the day. Like the guys were on their website like every day looking at every comment. So when I signed up, I was doing some fan art for Red versus Blue, and I was the first person to do some fan art for them.
Yeah.
So they took some notice. I got to chatting with them. They liked the fact that I was about the same age and like maturity level as them. So I immediately made a good connection. And when the time came, they were like, "Hey, we're actually making some money. We could use some extra content on the site. Luke, would you like a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So yeah, I was their first official full-time hire, and yeah, I worked there for 5 years, and it was just great. Mostly working from home, but I popped down for visits as often as I could, and even though the comic ended, I still keep in good contact with them and work on small little projects with them here and there.
Yeah. Because I mentioned that in the video where I received your package. Thank you for that, by the way. That I remembered the art style from the Balls to That comics from the Rooster Teeth comics, and I actually think that's amazing that you have so much your own style that I can look at one thing that's kind of like a little bit of fantasy, a little bit goofy, and then where you're kind of drawing cartoony versions of real people, and I'm still able to see, oh, this is Luke. And I've also seen some of your future projects and been able to see, oh, that's Luke's style, without knowing that this is you. So I'm fanboying a little over your art here. I'm sorry, but it's just amazing, man.
Yeah. For the current style I use, like I'm kind of like a little bit of rut, like stuck in it. But I didn't draw like that for the longest time. When I did start the Rooster Teeth comics, I took about 2 or 3 weeks just to work on the style, like just going over the style and making sure that it was distinctive from other drawings. Before that, I really was just trying to mimic my acrylic from Penny Arcade. So the moment I noticed, like, oh, I was too much like this guy, or I'm too much like Steven Silver, or I was noticing, like, anytime I was getting too close to, like, people who influenced me, I was like, make some changes. But yeah, I took 2 or 3 weeks just to find my style. And honestly, from the other artists I've talked to, that was a short amount of time. Usually finding your style is, if not a lifelong project, it's like a year, couple years just to make your style. So I did a lot of drawing in those 2 and 3 weeks, but yeah, finding just sitting to find your style is a big project.
Has there been any growing pains with that? Like some difficulties where your old style would shine through?
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's fun going back to some of my earlier work and seeing just all the mistakes I make.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of things people do when they draw is they flip their images from left to right to see if it's proportioned, where I didn't do that. So, but if I had, I would have noticed everything was lopsided and just some of the angles just did not match up, and just all kinds of graphic errors that you don't really notice until you take a step back. But it was a year later that I eventually took a step back and was like, oh my God, look at all these mistakes.
Oh no, what did I do? Speaking of art, is there anything that you love to draw, and is there something that you hate to draw?
Well, I love to draw people, and I love drawing like action poses. Like I love drawing high action, like people flying through the air, punches, kicks, and like giant romantic kisses, or kung fu, or like yeah, lots of like kind of fluid action.
Like where there's movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the one thing I don't like to draw so much is just very tedious, like, graphics. Like I'd like to think I do a good job at user interface stuff, like for mobile games and websites and stuff, but it's very tedious and boring work, where I can draw like this huge big splash page of action in the same amount of time it'll take me to do like these little graphics, just because they're so boring.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. Okay, so that's basically all the questions that I had. So let's move into the viewers who have been so nice to ask some questions. And from here on out, I should probably just address you as Sensei Luke, because holy crap, many of these are asking you for advice. So let's get going with Drika of Adrian. Don't know if it's supposed to be Dreamer. He asked, if you had to start from scratch with a new comic, what would it be?
Definitely superheroes. I've got to do a lot of like kind of fun and slice of life comics, but I mean, superheroes are like something I grew up with, and at the moment are just being done so well in like in current comics and in film, that it's like, oh man, why am I not doing more superheroes? I have lots of great superhero ideas, and actually, I do have a superhero comic kind of lined up for the next series after the one I'm working on.
Oh, you heard it here first, guys. Dale Collins asks, does your druid have a favorite kind of grass?
That's Dale. He's actually in my Dungeons and Dragons group. We play Dungeons and Dragons once a week.
Oh, yeah?
That's one thing I've missed about being in America, is that I have a regular Dungeons and Dragons group here, and we get together once a week and play D&D. And right now I'm playing a druid, and he's kind of a hippie pot smoking style druid.
Well, does your druid have a favorite kind of grass?
You know, I made this fun character of this big pothead, but I'm not really into weed at all, so I don't know the different kinds. Like, I guess like there's different kinds from I don't know different strains, but I don't know them.
So that would have to be a no. Just whatever
Yeah,
is
I
whatever is lying
assume
around.
wild growing weed. I don't know.
Uh, Olga, May Algon Free asks, how did you achieve financial independence using your artistic abilities? I think it's supposed to be abilities.
Well, at first it was just none of my doing. Rooster Teeth hired me. I was able to when they hired me on. I was working as a nurse and I was making quite a bit of money, and I'd gotten a lot of my student loans paid off. So that when Rooster Teeth rolled around, they're like, "Hey, you're a first hire, so we're not going to be offering you millions of dollars, but how is this?" Like they offered me like a decent salary, but it was like, I don't have any debts. So I can take this. So I was pretty lucky that when I started Rooster Teeth, I just about got my student loans paid off. I was pretty pretty well off for this kind of comfort of living. So it was pretty easy to get started. But after Rooster Teeth ended, I kind of needed to generate my own income with Button Mash, and a lot did kind of spill over from Rooster Teeth. A lot of the people I've like worked for, done commissions for, or who buy all Stack comics come from the Rooster Teeth community. So I owe a lot to them. So I was really lucky in the way that a lot of my marketing was kind of pre-done for me, where if you're doing webcomics now, half the job is just getting people to see you, getting people to come to your site and come to your store and buy your things. So I was lucky to have someone kind of help me with that.
Yeah. I didn't ask this. I didn't write this question down, but this is a perfect segue into that. Do you have any suggestions to aspiring webcomic creators to get their comic out there and get noticed?
Yeah, there's one single thing that you can do to really make a difference, and that's get help. Find someone else to do it with. If you're going to make a webcomic all on your own, don't plan for it to be successful. If you're going to do it by yourself, it's a fun project then. If you want to do it to actually make money, there's no way it can be done by one person. Just no way. I have people at Button Mash. I have Jose Rojas and Enzo Santos helping me every day, just with the website, managing the store, managing the finances. Like we have to do taxes and things like that. Where if I'm drawing or writing jokes, worrying about a quarterly budget and weird things like that, like submitting, your taxes and like processing advertise or ads and things like that. Just you can't.
No,
You need a friend. You need someone to work with. Find someone who's good at this. Pay them. They're worth it.
but how do you get out there? How do you get noticed? Like it's a big ocean.
Yeah. You have to network. You have to advertise. You have to get on all other people's forums. You have to buy advertising on websites. Like sign up with Project Wonderful. Get Google Ads. DeviantArt, Tumblr, Facebook, every social media, you have to pimp out your shit all day, every day. Like you should be tweeting about your comic 5 times a day, and that's one thing. Like you really can't do a lot on your own when you're being just the creative side. Someone just to manage your social media is almost a full-time job, just because you need to constantly be putting it out in your face and going into like other people's forums. Doing a lot of crossover work. It's been quite fun. I've got a lot of readers from UberQuest where I've just kind of joined Skid's drawing and just drawn with him. So I would draw some of his UberQuest characters with him, but then people would say, "Oh, I like what you do. What's your site?" And that's the thing. You got to get out there, just like 5 times a day on several different sites, or whoever will give you a slot to jump in. If someone will give you a chance to join them for something, join it. I do a lot of conventions. I pack up and I get on the road. I go to different states and provinces and towns, and I hand out free samples and I draw for people out in public, and I get out there as much as I possibly can.
Well, that thing about UberQuest kind of shocked me. It's so nice to see the family of webcomic relief. But yeah, great advice, dude. LAIMK21, I think it is, asks, what advice would you give to a person who wants to draw?
buy a sketchbook. Pencil and paper is like a lot of people don't know where to start. Just scrap paper, pencil, and if it's the end of the month and you have a few sheets of paper, you're not doing it right. You need a stack of paper just filled up. One day I got a nice little kind of brush pen, and I wasn't very good with it, and I was studying some Chinese art. So I filled a stack of paper just front and back, this thick, just with brush strokes until I got it right. So it's the repetitiveness that really works. Just mindlessly repeating, like drawing the same hand over and over and over. Like when people have trouble drawing hands or feet, draw the exact same hand over and over and over. Break down every line, and just keep going. Repetition really works. It's one of those things where you draw one thing, you draw it again, and each time it's a tiny bit better, which is kind of weird. Like my Balls That Comic art isn't really super amazing. It's very simple, but it's hilarious to see all the study that went into just a very simple thing.
Okay, already Balls to That comes and bites you in the ass with its name when you say my balls dot dot dot. Yeah. That was a great advice. I seem to remember having covered some of that in one of my videos where I said that there's a difference between learning with your brain and learning with your body, learning with your hand. So yeah, the repetition.
Yeah, you need muscle memory in your hand. I had a lot of luck at the time when I first started drawing, especially the Rooster comics. I was taking a lot of fencing, like FIE fencing, and so we a lot of like motor control skills with my fingers. I'd write the alphabet every day with a foil. So building strength in your hand, get like those little hand crunchers, those little balls.
Yeah.
Like build strength in your hand. The stronger your hand gets, and the more dexterous your hand gets, the easier the images from your brain to the page get.
Huh. I'm learning all sorts of new stuff here. And I'm not even asking the questions.
Yeah, never write the alphabet. Always draw the alphabet. That's always a good key. That when you're writing like words, don't try to write the words. Try to just draw each letter, and you'll notice like, hey, I'm drawing better. Just
holy crap! Little Bunny Games asks, do you find it difficult to keep on a constant update schedule, and do you have any habits that help you keep on track with your updates?
I have a very hard time keeping up my schedule. Today's comic is currently very late. I do a lot of like kind of little side projects where it often jumps into my schedule, and often just to like kind of make ends meet. I've taken like my old nursing job. I used to be a nurse, so sometimes like just to make ends meet, I'd go and grab some shifts at the hospital, and that of course interferes well too. But you got to make your money. So. Yeah. But yeah, keeping that schedule is easily the hardest thing I do. And I fail at it a lot. It's one of those things like if you can keep a perfect schedule, you will see results with your readership. But I've known very few people to keep a perfect schedule. Like people who keep a perfect schedule make money. But if you don't, make a good apology, make up for it. Like if you miss a comic, at least post up a doodle saying, oops, sorry, I'm not here, but I posted something. Yeah. So, schedule is one of the hardest things to do as an artist. Meeting deadlines, it's any artist in any kind of art field, it's one of the hardest things to do, but do the best you can.
What would you say is the most important? Keeping up a schedule, but maybe sacrificing some of the passion and stuff going into the comic, or do you prefer the passion and then giving the schedule a second place?
Yeah, quite often, like say if your deadline is midnight and you're drawing something very complicated and you really want to get on all those details to really make that thing, do you just kind of push back the schedule? I would say yes. If you're pushing it back like as little as possible, but I'm one of those people like I want to respect a deadline as much as possible, but I can't commit to like that hard deadline. I don't like myself sacrificing the art if I don't have to. Like if I'm working on a job, like say for a game or something like that, where they have hard deadlines, you give them what you got when the deadline comes. But if you're working on something like a passion project, like a comic or something like that, you know what? It's not the end of the world to miss your deadline.
No.
Like, do it right. It's better to do it right than have it on time and be terrible.
Yeah.
So, but keep in mind, by being late, when you start thinking like, oh, I'm a couple weeks late, yeah, that's maybe a bit too much. I think like maybe a few hours late. Like, I got to stay up a little bit late tonight to get my deadline, and I'm past it. Well, keep going, but yeah.
I remember back in season 1 of the Webcomic Relief, I was like, I need to put out a video every other week. And then I found out that my quality really suffered from that, and then I was like, I do it at least once a month. But then the depression hit, and I just found out that I could write a script, but it wouldn't be as entertaining because I wasn't feeling funny. It's kind of a mindset. So my videos just come out whenever the fuck I feel like it. I should probably.
Is some big company paying you? No. Then you do it when you do it, and you do it right. And hopefully the quality will just kind of like, make up for itself. You do put out a pretty good volume though, so I wouldn't worry. Like if you're late with one coming out, just go back and see my other stuff. There's a great plethora of things to keep you busy.
I got a big back catalog. Kumagawa, I have to change my name, asks, did you give yourself any rules when you created your comic so that it wouldn't turn out a certain way?
Rules? Yeah, I guess so. A lot of the rules kind of like evolved along the way. I guess with art style, I kind of set down certain rules, like, as you can see, balls that look sketchy and the blue lines, and so I picked out certain blues and grays along the way. As for storyline stuff, I made some kind of rules. It was quite fun. The rules started coming about more when I started working with other artists, like when Enzo Santos from Cheer Up Emo Kid joined Button Mash. All of a sudden we had several comics, and we're like, hey, should our universes connect? Like, should our characters be able to meet in theory someday? And we're like, yeah, of course. And so we wrote some like kind of continuity universe stuff, and just some things to kind of like, if we ever add any more comics to the mix, that this is the world that all our comics kind of fall into. It's all silliness, but don't blow up the world just in case.
So it's like one big universe where if you create another comic, then it will take place in the same universe. Maybe like if it's a Dungeons and Dragons ish comic, it will be like in the past of this world or whatever.
The Dungeons and Dragons comic series I'm working on right now is kind of in a alternate space, so that one I get a lot more room to play with. But I've actually done some small crossover stuff with Cheer Up Emo Kid, and we're planning to do a lot more. So
great. Yeah,
if anyone else, any of the comic wants to join the Button Mash, more than free, and we'd love to cross over.
I'll throw up an ad here. No, seriously, dude. If you got any, if you want people to contact you or anything, I can write whatever you want down here, and people can contact you on that for signing up on Button Mash.
Yeah, it's thebuttonmash.com.
Watch me forget adding anything down here. Okay. Okay, yeah, a little advertisement. That's great. Alistair Vane asks, do you have any future projects in mind?
I have too many future projects in mind. I have like folders and folders and folders on my computer just of like ideas that have just come into mind, which are poorly conceived, which I need help with, like a real writer to get going. I've contacted a few writers here and there, but mostly haven't done a lot of work because I can barely pay myself, let alone hire another writer. But if I could hire another writer, I would love to.
Okay. Second question from Alistair Vane is, have you ever wanted to do a specific thing with Balls to Dad, but was received poorly by the readers?
Ooh. Yeah, I guess like so the adventure sequences that I do, like those full page, 24-page adventures. I love doing. Yeah, but honestly, I do see a big dip in readership when I do those. It's really weird. I get a bump in readership when I start doing like the little 3 and 4 panel, just kind of puns and jokes, daily jokes. But when I do the adventures, the readership drops down a little bit. But I love doing them. So
Yeah, okay. Just shows what I know.
yeah, but the adventures do sell better once they're finished. So I'd say that like the collected puns and jokes don't sell as well as a printed book, but the little short adventures, because they're just nice and easy and cheap and easy to ship. So people go like, oh, like $5 or $10. Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah. So that's one nice thing I can do with those. Like they may not give immediate great readership, but they work better in the long run, I find.
Of course. Christian Krim asks, what's your creative process for Balls to Dad?
My creative process is kind of all over the place. It started as a side project, so it really was like some of my random doodles literally mashed together to make a comic. Yeah. And I just added a story afterwards, and sometimes I even do that. I'm drawing something fun. Let's make a comic out of it. But on occasion, I will sit down and do my homework and write a proper sketch with a prologue and Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, and an epilogue, and time it out and like plan some of the sequence of the art. But every time I do that, I seem to start changing it along as I go. But yeah, I used to just do a lot of like by the seat of my pants. But I guess about after I did the first of Balls, that comic, I actually started picking up some books on like writing and English literature and just doing some book reports and things like that. So I'm not educated in art or writing. I went to school as a nurse and did the sciences, so a lot of the stuff I know I'm uneducated on. So I go back and teach myself, take a couple online courses on how to write. And yeah, so I try and use like standard set writing paths, but man, most of the time I just go like,
I'm a draw mustard naked.
Yep.
Funny thing that you mentioned that thing about you not having read anything about writing and stuff like that, or well, not taking any education. The juxtaposition that I used your comic as an example for, was that intentional, or was it just, by chance that you created such great juxtapositions sometimes?
Most of the time it's an accident.
Okay.
But most of the times it's a happy accident. The only time I really deeply thought about any of that kind of stuff was for the one Fuck the Cosmos series and the Pied Piper series. Like those are the ones I put a lot of deep thought to. It. A lot of the ones I just kind of did a lot of seat of the pants. A lot of times, like those nice little juxtaposition things kind of accidentally happen, and I'm glad they do. But it's hard to plan something amazing, really. I think plan for something as best you can, but when awesome and fun things happen in your story, usually it's just because like, oh, that worked.
The reason why I ask is because I still think that there is this one 4-frame comic you made where Balls is waking up next to Mustard and he kisses her and he leaves a note that says, "You deserve better," and you see him crawling out her window or something. And I just think like that is arguably one of the best 4-panel comics I can remember reading, because it's such a normal thing for people to feel like they're not their significant others, like the best for them, and so you kind of want to make the sacrifice on their behalf and leaving them. And I just think that was so great that you see a silly wacky character like Boss who like shoot your face off or gnaw on his own foot and stuff like that also shares these feelings. And I just thought that was what made me go, okay, I need to talk about juxtaposition in this comic.
Yeah, actually, a lot of those kind of comics, I did just like to, just because like, just kind of let a feeling out. And I did a bunch of Balls to That comics like that I ended up deleting and taking down off the site shortly after they were made. But a couple of friends seemed like, oh man, they really touched somebody. But I was like, they hit a little bit too close to home for me to even look at them anymore. So I took them down. But yeah, doing that kind of sweet and like sensitive kind of scene, it does hit a little bit harder when it's in a wacky situation. Like it's nice to see like kind of be drawn back into reality when you're in a very fantasy style image, or in a, like say if you're watching a very fantasy movie and then all of a sudden like something happens, you're like, oh wait, I'm in like a real world thing, and it draws you out. Like it's kind of a nice feeling being drawn out of a fantasy setting every now and then.
Yeah, it just works that, oh, this super wacky goofy character has the exact same problems that I have. How about that shit? Um, Cat Comic Studios asks, Luke, do you read any webcomics? And what are your thoughts on webcomics as a medium, pros and cons, etc.?
I read a lot of webcomics. Probably spend too much time my time just reading them. In fact, I can't wait to do I want to do a webcomic relief episode on. I found a webcomic to do a episode on, and I've just found a whole new genre of webcomics, and now I'm just spending so much time on them.
Good or bad?
I think good. Like there's a whole like section of like humor comics, adventure comics, like furry comics. I found a whole new subset of like Dungeons and Dragons comics, and so I've been doing a little bit of homework on that and reading a bunch of the web comics. And there's a lot of people who play Dungeons and Dragons, which is a lot of like a great visual game in your head, which makes a great medium to make into a web comic. Web comics are a great medium because they're fast. It makes a image that gets up online really quick. You can get a good response from the audience right away because it's on the internet. People can comment right away, so you can make adjustments on the fly. It's not like putting together a movie or a full book where you can get a book review at the end and go, oh, well, I made mistakes, maybe next book. With a webcomic, you can get immediate reaction from the internet and go, oh, hey, I did something really good, keep doing that. Or, oh, I did something really terrible, fix that. And you can do it right away. So that's one thing I think webcomics were really handy in making a lot of like media of the future where it's like, it seems like a very flash in the pan for a lot of people now where it's like, everyone has their web comic, whatever. Like there's 1,000,002 of them or whatever. But kind of that's how comics were, like comic books were seen back in the early 1900s of like, oh, it's just some children's thing, whatever. But now, of course, like major movies are made off of
Look at this Stan Lee nerd. What the fuck does he know?
Yeah, exactly. Like Stan Lee was like in the early days, like he lied about his job because he was like, oh man, I make comics. I don't want to tell anyone I do that. But yeah, I think if like people working on their comics now who are feeling like, oh, I'm not getting any notoriety as like a real author or a real artist, I think that view will be a bit different in a couple of years. Like, I really hope someday someone finds a web comic and goes, I love this idea. We're going to make a TV show or a movie out of it, and we want to buy up your property. Like,
I'm gonna stop you right there. There has actually been this. Are you aware of the anime known as One Punch Man?
Yes.
It's basically Rise of the anime. Anyway, One Punch Man actually started out as a webcomic. It was made by a guy who went under the synonym One, and was picked up by the guy who drew the pictures for what's it called? iShield 21. When he heard that if the comic thing didn't work out for One, he was going to stop drawing altogether. And because this dude who made iShield 21 loved it so much, he actually turned it into. He asked if he could draw it, and it became what it is now. So we are already.
Great. Yeah. Like it is one of those weird things. Like it's just a sea of web comics, but I think yeah, if someone does a good job at it, I think it seems like just a great garden to grow ideas, like because it's so fast and it's right into the internet and it's immediately responded on that. Yeah, I think it's a great place to grow a good idea, and if you have a bad idea, not too much time was lost on it.
No. Except Sonic Jew. Anyway. Yeah, that's also a thing. Like when you're making a webcomics, there's no filter. you're probably just going, oh, this rape comic, this is a really good idea, and then Jack is.
Yeah. Once again, if you are making a webcomic, the best advice I can give is work with someone else. Have that second pair of eyes. Have that second set of ears to just go like, that wasn't a good idea. Uh, More than 100 times, I've messaged Enzo and Jose and gone, "Hey, I have this a comic idea," and they're like, "No, dude, that's terrible. It's like that's a joke like disparaging some kind of person. Like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. It's like, well, in text it comes across that way. And like, oh, okay. And, yeah. So yeah, it's always a good idea to have someone, just anyone on the street before you like, if you could, just before you put up your webcomic, say, hey, take a look at this, and then have them go, ugh, or like, oh, hey.
Angel Corp, not a great idea. Might want to workshop it. Wyesh asks, do you have any advice on managing time between work and personal life, especially for an artist that is just starting out and not knowing which to prioritize first and how?
Yeah. The best advice I can give for that is a lot of times I did when I kind of first started drawing. I had a job that had these incredibly long hours. There was 12-hour shifts, but it was like 6 hours of work and 6 hours of on call. So I had 6 hours to sit there and doodle, which was fortunate. But yeah, making that time to just kind of draw if you're working is difficult. Like, oh, I worked an 8-hour, 12-hour day, and now I want to come home and just like kind of eat dinner and go to sleep. But quite often I found like when I was working and just trying to learn to draw, I would like come home from work and I would draw for 8 hours at home and until like, oh, it's 2 a.m. I got to get to bed. And I just really like, I was fortunate at the time I started to draw that there was nothing good on TV. So it was the late 90s, early 2000s. There was Friends reruns and Seinfeld reruns. That's all that was on TV. So I just turned the TV off and I was like, well, I'm going to draw my own adventures. And so I was really, my boredom really helped. So I had nothing better to do. And so I just drew. And yeah. Hopefully you can find yourself in a boring situation with a pencil and a paper.
But yeah, also like the question is, which one should you prioritize? Dude, you should prioritize your personal life.
Oh yeah, prioritize work. If you don't eat, you will die. You need, yeah. Stop if your art isn't paying the bill. Like for anyone who's working in comics or art, or if you can't put a roof over your head and keep food in your stomach, stop doing art.
At least for now.
Yeah, you can always come back to it. Don't worry, but yeah, food and shelter is a big deal. And I have seen people, yeah, just oh, I didn't go to my job because I'm working on my comic and like I can't pay the bills, and that on occasion has been me. I'm very lucky. I'm here in America and I can't really work right now, so I'm just working on my comics, and so my wife is working like 2 jobs right now, and she's keeping the roof over her head and her stomach's filled.
Oh, yeah, that's good, I guess.
Yeah. Also, a lot of times when people say in the front of their books or their comics, or they say like, "Thanks to my friends and family for supporting me over these years," a lot of times that isn't like, "Oh, they gave me lots of like well wishes and they wanted me like they said not some nice words." A lot of time that support is like, "Hey, they helped me with rent. Hey, they bought me some groceries," and that's one thing. Like when you're doing art, at some point along the way, it doesn't matter if you're the greatest artist or the worst artist. You could be Michelangelo, you can be Leonardo da Vinci, or you could be some guy scribbling on the sidewalk. At some point, everyone's going to need help. Don't turn down help. Friends, family. If someone's like, "Hey, I want to like give you a couple bucks for groceries or help with rent," take it. That little help they give you is time for you to work on your art, and it's you're gonna need it. You're gonna need help like with the second person for second set of eyes, second set or and to like just help with marketing or things. But yeah, just mostly like you can't do art on your own. It's one of those fun things to see. Just like even amazing artists like say Banksy, he's an amazing artist who does graffiti. You think he'd do it all by himself? No, he has a crew of people who help him in his life, even though he's like doing well off. You need people. As an artist, I would say connect with friends. Ask for help. I mean, try not to be too needy, but like yeah, ask for help because you're gonna need it.
Yeah. That good advice. Good advice.
If you can pay them, please do. Uh, Jose is pretty much working for free, but we give him as much money as we can when we can. But but yeah, find someone to help you, pay them, like get help, like because you can't do it on your own. You just can't.
And if anyone is like me, like I would do a video for commissions. Like I love that shit. So if like this one of the tools you got, like I can draw, and you coincidentally would like a thing. How about I do that for you and you do this for me? Like
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. I do art exchanges. Yeah, probably on average once a day.
there you go. Finian Davis asks, when did you first come up with the idea for Balls to That, and how long did it take for you to turn it into a webcomic?
Ooh. I drew the first comic about that kind of like yeah by accident really. Like just I was working on Rooster Teeth Comics and I was just drawing kind of mindless stuff on the side, and I think I was drawing like some kind of comic with me like in bandages, and then it just kind of started evolving. Like it was this really slow evolve from the first little comic I drew of him until I actually published a comic. It was about 2 years, 2.5 years at least. Yeah, like I took a lot of time just doodling off on the side while I was making the Rooster Teeth comics. Yeah, drew the first one in 2007, but I didn't have a balls to that site until 2010 or 2009, late 2009.
Oh, okay. I don't have a follow up to that. I'm sorry. RTKTS asks, what are Luke's primary influences behind the comic? Is there anything outside the realm of entertainment and relationships that may have given him ideas or concepts for the jokes and story?
Oh, yeah. I steal a lot of jokes from uh, like overheard conversations. Um, so every time like I'll be out with friends or something, someone says something even vaguely funny, I type it down and write it on my phone, da, 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 and I'll work it into a joke. Or I'll see like people like, hey, someone's posted some like people trying to be funny and witty online in their forums. Oh man, I steal all like if you say something funny on a forum, I'm stealing your idea. Oh yeah, I'm constantly like I can't remember who said it, but some of the greatest artists are some of the greatest thieves, and I steal material all day long. It's pretty much how I write. Is like I go online or I'm out in public and I just overhear someone trying to be funny and I write it down and I steal it. It's like I'm holding that one for later, or I'll find something to use that for later. Um, yeah, and quite often actually, like Ballsnet had a really good start with. There's this girl who would blog all these kind of like little funny quips, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to steal some of these for comics. And so I just asked her, hey, can I steal these for comics? She's like, yeah, sure. So yeah, as a writer, I'm really a big thief. Like I'm going through forums and I'm going through threads and just looking at all the little comments. Like if someone posts something funny on Reddit, I'll go through the comments to see like what people have said to it. And like, aha, that's the comments is even better. So yeah, I steal a lot of ideas, but on occasion I'll get a chance to sit down and write. But more stealing than actually coming out of my own brain. Yeah, the internet. Yeah, yeah. I steal a lot of ideas from comments in the from the Rooster Teeth site, uh, from Reddit. A lot of people who post to my Facebook just silly little things like, "Oh, I'm seeing something funny to Luke." Yeah, well, that's in the comic now. Quite often, a lot of things I'll say to my friends when we're out in public. Someone will say something funny. I go, "That's a comic."
You're now a comic star.
Yeah, yeah.
Speed Comic Videos asks, here's a fun question for our dear Luke. How many puns?
A few. I my nickname growing up was Luke the Puke.
Luke the. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Luke the Puke. Yeah, I guess on occasion I got called Duke.
Yeah, that was the
My
one I would have picked out.
yeah. My grandmother. So I was named after the Bible character Luke from the Apostle Luke, and my grandmother really didn't like Christian stuff, so she called me Lou for a long time.
Just in spite.
Yeah, it's like,
Well, for in the webcomic relief, you will always be Luke the Man Mckay or Luke the Business or whatever the hell I.
yeah, every kind of like thing that pops up, like Xbox Live or Facebook or anywhere that needs a username, like uh, Snapchat or Instagram
Careful,
or
you might
Twitter.
get a lot of requests now.
No, I make sure to grab those things and put like grab the username Luke McKay, all one word, Luke McKay. Yeah, like anytime something pops up like that, I always make sure like sign up right away, even if I'll never use it, and just like I've never used Snapchat ever, but I have the username Luke McKay on there just because I grab up all the things that'll have my name on it.
Good. The same thing with Riser, but most of the time it's Riser89.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, unfortunately, like my YouTube is Luke McKay 76 because there is a filmmaker named Luke McKay, so missed that one.
Fuck.
So close.
Uh, I always butcher this name because it's apparently Irish, so I don't know how to pronounce it properly. But Shoban Findley. Oh my god, it's really come down now. First question is, what inspired you to come up with the idea for balls? That we more or less covered that, haven't we?
Yeah, it was really just an accidental process of like me doodling off to the side, and yeah, just any of my friends, like friends or family or people that I knew, I just kind of mashed into it. When we did the Rooster Teeth comics, we made a policy of like not putting real life people from the site into the comic, even though we really wanted to. But we immediately found that there could be problems with that. But I wanted to put people from the website into the comics, so I was like, I'll make my own comics and I'll add them to it. So the first dozen or so Balls to That comics really were just taking people from the Rooster Teeth site and putting them into a comic because I just wanted to draw them.
Yeah, I actually noticed that when I was reading them. Like, you see Balls sitting on the roof and he's just talking with a guy we never see again.
Yeah. The first dozen comics took like were over a 2 year span. I drew those over a 2 year span of just like drawing friends and whatnot. The actual first Ballstat comic ever drawn was the second one where he's in the prison. That's the very first one.
Huh?
Actually, yeah. The one where the very first one where he's all like, oh, balls this, that, balls that. That was actually just a full color comic I had done, just as a funny thing to say, and I later went back and redrew it to look like balls to that.
That reminds me, do you still say balls to that to everything?
Oh, less and less, just because it's so cliched. But sometimes it's my catchphrase. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Second question. For any beginner webcomic artists who are planning on creating a webcomic series regardless of the genre of the comic, what advice would you give to them?
Again, help. Don't do it on your own. Do homework. A lot of things like when you see a comic that looks well done, even though it's very simple, chances are there's like hours of homework in the background that no one's ever seen. For me to do like a simple joke like about orange juice, I'll do like homework on how oranges are grown and how they're processed and things like that. Where it's like, that didn't make it to the comic, but I did homework for what I was doing, and a lot of times, like even though it doesn't get used, it still shows through when you write or draw. Like every little bit of homework you do will help.
Plus, when you're doing this homework, you might come up with an entirely different joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll say that the process of creating an orange juice had something really, really weird in it. You can use that for a joke.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is that people should watch more webcomic relief and learn from the tips that I explained within.
Yeah, actually, I'm really quite surprised. As I said, when I looked up other webcomic reviewers, it was just all this kind of like bland text, and I just kind of scanned through it and didn't really absorb it. But when I seen your show and like watched him review, and you could like emphasize certain words or like bring certain points to light a bit better, it's sunk in a lot better. It's like reading a book compared to taking a class. Like if you're learning biology, you could pick up a biology book, but if you took a biology class and like dissected frogs, you'd learn a lot more. So it was really nice to see your show, and especially to listen to it as well as like to see it, just because just the inflections of the words and all the I don't know, like hand gestures and body language. That's so much of the communication, and so the critiques you give really kind of sink in a lot better.
Even if English isn't my first language.
Yeah, no, your English is actually quite good. I've heard the Danish are the best at English as a second language.
Doesn't sound wrong. We learn it at a very young age. I learned all my English from watching cartoons.
Yeah, everyone. I lived in Switzerland, and everyone spoke English there too, and also learned English at a really young age there. So
You told me that, and I was like, nah. Because like you Switzerland, Canada, America. Am I forgetting anything? You've been kind of over the world.
well, I mean, I like to travel. I've never been to Asia,
That was very specific. Okay.
but yeah, I like to travel. I do like language studies. I mean, I learned French as a kid because being from Canada, but I haven't spoke French in 35 years, so it's pretty much lost to me. I haven't been to Germany or Switzerland in 10 years, so my Swiss and German is very bad now too.
Yeah. That was a sidetrack thingy. Final one. Do you have any other comic ideas once Balls to That has come to an end? We've also covered that, I think.
What was the question?
Do you have any other comic ideas once Balls to That has come to an end?
Oh yeah, many, and Ballstead has come to end several times. Like I've ended it several times. I'm like, going, I'm done, and end it off, and it always comes back. So I don't think Ballstat will actually ever end. It may go to a like periodic update, but it'll never end.
Okay, that's good to hear. Good to hear. What's the best way to come up with a story, art, style, and concept? And what advice would you give beginners?
Best way to come up with a story and art design, just steal it. As you've gone over with like tracing and plagiarizing in your series, yeah, if you steal from one person, that's plagiarizing. Stealing from many people, that's research. So yeah, steal from as many people as you can and mash it all together, and all of a sudden, oh, it's a unique thing. Really, that's what everyone's been doing. Anyone who you find is like, oh, this is a unique artist, they will always cite like several influences where you could go back and go, oh yeah, I see exactly what you took from them. It's like, yeah. So the best way to come up with your own unique thing is try to steal from more people. The less people you steal from, the more you seem like a plagiar. The more people you steal from, the more unique you are.
You, we can laugh at that as much as we want, but it's actually really good advice. It just takes some balls to actually say it.
Yeah. No, I think people have been saying it for years. Steal from one person is plagiarism. Steal from many people, it's research.
I kind of wanted to work in it takes a lot of balls to do that, but I'm not on my game. Hugo asks, how did you and your wife meet each other?
I met my wife playing Halo.
Are you one of those people that there's so many videos joking about? We're like, oh my god, a girl playing Halo.
No, actually, well, of course, I got hired on Red versus Blue, and it's very Halo based. So I was playing a lot of Halo. I was getting to not just play Halo, but then talk with people afterwards in the forums. And so the one nice thing with Red versus Blue was it had this nice community that you could like either watch videos with or connect with people to play games. It came out at a perfect time with Xbox Live kind of budding up. So it was just this really nice time of. I felt like the mid 2000s was a really good time to connect with people on the internet. Like it really was like a big game changing time. I think in social life, like going to a bar and meeting someone now is just almost unheard of. Like yeah, you meet people online. It's just so common. But it was such a new novel thing. Then it's like, hey, I can not just meet you online, but we can do all kinds of things online. So I had known my wife like through various forums and things like that, but then actually got to play a lot of Halo with her. And then because of Red versus Blue, it's like, hey, there's a convention. We can meet at said convention. And so we'd meet at conventions, and we kind of got to slowly know each other like in person. online, various chat forums, and then and just at one convention, I was like, "Hey, you want to go out?" And our first date was amazing. So, like, it would take a whole episode to explain it, but we had a very adventurous first date. It was oh, sorry, talking with my hands a lot there. Knocked the cord out. But yeah, I guess one thing I guess also as a writer too, I like to have a lot of adventures. Like I like to go out and do wacky things. And fortunately, my wife was like, "Oh yeah, I'm all on board. That's good." Like, hey, we need to run across town and like punch someone in the butt. Oh, we'll definitely do that. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, I love doing adventure stuff. Like I like to like hop on a bus, hop on a train, hop on a plane. Just hey, we're gonna go and just fly across the country. Why? Also, I can steal George's glasses. Why? Because it'd be funny. We'll
But
take his
think about
glasses,
it though.
fly him over to Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. As just a life tip, put a lot of effort into the small, tiny things because that's the things to remember. Oh, titties. Well, actually, I did read that question earlier, and I want to expand on that. Um, I
Oh, this is gonna be good.
no, it's going to sound actually even more responsible and adult. Um, I really like drawing like feminine characters, like with like really feminine properties, as well as like looking for really masculine characters to draw on masculine characters. Like, and it's one of those things like when I do kind of sketch and practice, I really kind of like to exaggerate like feminine features and masculine features to kind of like be a little more cartoony and like um, it's always one of those things like I'm constantly kind of working on drawing. Like I like to draw boobs because honestly they're hard to draw because I don't have them, and it's one of those things like I hate to stare, but not really, but draw. But
I hate to stare.
yeah, no, but study like when you draw characters, like study like kind of like basic characteristics too, like masculine characters, feminine characters, like just those little things like finding what makes a character more feminine can help like really guide your first impressions of that character, which is nice when you're doing comics. You can have the person say so much with just a single drawing. It's like if you draw someone who's ultra feminine looking, you can make a lot of assumptions like, oh, like say they have a lot of like girly style makeup or like very feminine haircut. You can assume that they do a lot of other very distinct feminine things. Same with guys. If they have like big thick mustache, you can assume like, oh, I'm a manly macho man. Like, taking some things like that is really great to establish your character and yeah, work on those.
I think that's one of the many reasons why oh, I forget her name. I'm so embarrassed. Colonel Sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's one of the many reasons why she's my waifu, because she's just a dude. She's a totally hot blonde, but she's a dude in her behavior.
yeah, and she's the only character I think I have with long hair. So yep,
Now that you mention it.
yep. Drawing people with shorter hair is very convenient. Of course, like a very feminine, like she's very military in uniform. Just kind of like a lot of straight lines, but throwing that little long ponytail in kind of like then pops into like she's a girl.
Okay, but I think Claudia's real question was, do you have days when you feel completely unmotivated? And if you do, how do you combat that to get better?
Oh, yeah. Fighting like getting motivated is also a really hard thing to do. And I use drugs. Ca- Caffeine. I drink a lot of caffeine, and some days I go like, oh, I'm not feeling well because I've had so much tea or soda or whatever. So I try and like break off from it for a while. It's like, no, just some water and whatnot. And I find I just am so lazy and unmotivated. And the next day I'll have an energy drink and like, I'm so productive. I hate to say it, just drugs help. Caffeine.
You heard it here, kids.
I do find actually, yeah, alcohol slows me down. So I used to like to have like a beer or something when I drew, but now no beer, no liquor. Like I until I'm done drawing, I avoid alcohol.
Okay. So that was kind of like a PSA and a not so
Yeah.
PSA.
Yep.
Skid or Skid Dog, if we all know who it is. Do you have any big inspirations that pushed you to get this far with your comics and work?
Yes, I have a very haunting specter that motivates me every day. Of like, if you don't draw and you don't be successful, rent's not going to get paid. So, I work to get I draw as hard as I can, always thinking about like, if I can get this done, if I can sell this piece, um, it will pay the bills. It was just nice to get started off where my art was paying the bills right away, and then just kind of keep on that roll. But that whole feeling of I feel successful if I can pay bills with art, just that constant pushing up of, I hate to say money motivates me, but it does a lot. Uh, I will put extra effort into a piece like of a drawing that I know is going to go to a convention and get sold. So like, hey, I need to show this off to sell it, and so I'll put more work into something like that. Just knowing like I'm looking for that financial reward afterwards.
Yeah, of course. But if you had to be sappy, like, is there any, big
Um,
motivation?
on occasion, I will do some comics and stuff that are just like I has a feels and I want to get it out. Like, or just sometimes you have a feeling and you just want to get it out. Don't do that too much, but on occasion, yeah, I just like if I'm feeling like sad or something like that, and I'll draw like a little guy in the rain or from ultra silly, like a food fight and things like this is not for a comic or anything. And I have huge files and files of drawings on my computer of like just a lot of ball sack characters quite often like doing stuff that I just felt like drawing, and hopefully I can use it later. But like you've seen the printed books, all those little side drawings. That's what all those are. Whereas like I was feeling this way and I just drew it and saved off to the side, and I didn't know what to do with that art, and so I just splashed it into every little section where it's white. I just
That reminds me, I'm still uber pissed at you for that one time where you were doing that 24-hour art stream, and I was playing Bloodborne on my TV here, and I look over, and you've drawn me and Christian Weston Chandler, and you're drawn like me, like doing this or something, and I go, yo, what the fuck? That's amazing and stuff. And then I beat a boss, and then I go back and it's like, oh, where did that drawing go? Oh, I deleted it. Like fuck you.
yeah, a lot of stuff I draw does get deleted.
Okay. And I think the last question is from Hayden Malion, who asks, "How do you manage multiple projects, and what advice would you give to beginners who will face that sort of thing?"
Best advice is don't try to work on one project at a time. Uh, yeah, I've never had good things come of working on multiple projects at the same time. It messes up your deadlines. Yeah, just and like just changing your brain from one style to the other. Yeah, it's just hard work. I would just say try to avoid it. Try to complete one whole project and then on to the next. Doing several at the same time just is a breeding ground for mistakes. Yeah, just try to avoid it. If you have to, you have to. But yeah, just try to avoid it.
That was all the questions. I think I've gotten the answer for all my questions. I hope that the viewers have gotten the answer for their questions. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. 2016 is coming up. Uh, do you have any plans for 2016? Possibly, maybe, I don't know, coming to America? I don't know.
Okay. I think I've discussed this with you at one point. My biggest dream as of now is either A, be in the cover of those books that says thank you, we would like to thank and have mention of me. But the biggest of all dreams is to one day have a panel. Go to a convention, have a panel that teaches people about bullying and how to get on with their life. Because I've been there. And look at me now. But I would also just love to come to America and have a vacation. The problem is that I suck at traveling. I'm
It's a long flight.
Yeah, and I get really anxious when it comes to traveling. And I don't know why. I think it's because something is taken out of my control. Like having the job that I have, like I'm a store manager, so I have to attend a lot of meetings. So I have to take the bus or the train to all across Denmark, and just taking the train or the bus is making me like, what if it's the wrong bus? Oh no! What if I fall asleep when I get off at the wrong stop? So taking that and just bring it up to 11 with going to America on my own or maybe with a friend is like I would have to work up some really big cojones for it, but there's nothing that I would rather do. I would love to come to America and just I would have to try watch a baseball game, eat some of the most disgusting shit you have because America has really disgusting food compared to Denmark in a good
Actually,
way.
that's one thing I've been loving about America: the food. Oh, good food here, actually, especially in Texas. Yeah, the food is so good. I can understand why everyone's fat down there.
And and just I kind of want to have a talk with as many Americans as I do because it sounds weird. I love the American accent. Just talking with you, Skid, and David and Liz, all of these amazing people from America, and just like, oh my god, they're really English. Oh my god, really American. It's like so weird. So yeah, that's definitely something that I want to do, and I usually I purposely pay too much in taxes for my for my work, and that's usually just because I suck at saving up money. So every year I get this huge tax refund, and I have been thinking about maybe using this tax refund and mix it together with whatever vacation I have, and try and see if I can get my ass to America.
Well, if you do have anxiety about traveling, yeah, if you can travel with someone, that would cut your anxiety. So force one of your friends to come with you.
I think I know a guy.
Yeah, you're always welcome here. And I could probably even help you set up a panel at like the Penny Arcade Expo, because that something you do would be perfect to have a panel there.
Oh, old crap. We will have to talk off camera about that. As a big project, not Webcomic Leaf is still going strong. I'm trying to do a lot of different things with this season. Last one was all about what art can be. This one is going to be deeper, more with the feels. And I'm trying to leave, I'm trying to actually apply most of what I've been talking about into this season, because to show that what you can create with shitty stuff. Like my videos are not big dramas or anything, so I try to show in a small little medium what can happen if you use the tools properly in something small like that. So we will have to see how that goes, but thus far I love that no one has really caught on to what the whole thing is about yet. So yeah, that's basically all the plans I have for 2016.
Well, if you want any help with them, call me anytime.
I'll keep you to that, man. That's it for me. Do we have anything here at the end?
No, just hopefully I can. So I'm in America just now. I'm still immigrating to the United States, so I'm kind of in this limbo area of I can't really do much but sit around and make comics. But once I am in the system and I can start working again, I would love to start contributing to your Patreon. Folks out there, contribute to Riser's Patreon. Get some more Webcomic Relief shows going.
Again, watch me forget adding anything down there. Oh my god. Okay. I need to get this out of my system. You know that I'm a huge fan of your shit. Like, I said it on the Webcomic Relief. You're probably my favorite artist I've covered on this show, bar none. I love your style so much. So to have Luke the Man Mckay plug my Patreon, that's kind of a big deal.
No, I've plugged it to a few people. Just hopefully, we can get some more money coming your way. I loved how the production levels of your show have increased since season 1, and it really seems like it's one of those things where, like, it was money. I can see how you've spent your money to make your show better, and it's like, give this guy some more money, and he can get even better. So
I have this group of friends who have also watched the show, and I've met through it on Skype. And we were actually talking before we called here, and we were talking about like ghetto setups, we called it. And so we were talking about how my old videos were done. My old videos were either with a webcam, and everything that wasn't like in season 1, I only had the webcam, so every different angle would have to be my webcam attached to my PC and just like drag it along. And in season 2 and up till the third part of how What Dreams May Come, everything was recorded with an iPad, so I had to put up the iPad and set up a heavy thing so it wouldn't tip over, and like the most ghetto setup ever. Now that I finally have a camera and a stand, I have also invested in some green cloth, so maybe green screen effects in the future.
And get some of those like screen lighting as well. Those always a help.
I've been thinking of those. The problem is that over here, this is a wall.
Yeah,
Like,
with a lot of YouTubers, I find one of the things that makes their quality of their videos come across better is the lighting. I've watched a lot of stuff with Jenna Marbles putting her stuff together, and it's just, she does a lot of it herself, where it's just like, I bought some expensive lights, but the quality, I didn't have to change the cameras at all. I just put a little bit better lighting, and it looks like I spent like $10,000 more on a camera.
maybe I'll just do that.
But also, yeah, I would love to get you out to Vancouver, Canada. I'm not sure if they do this in Denmark at all, but have you heard of the YouTube studios? And like a lot of studios where they just have like green screen rooms and little sound room booths for YouTubers to record in?
Dude, you have no idea how small YouTube is in Denmark.
Well, they have a whole studio for that in LA, but in Vancouver, our public library just opened up a studio like that, but it's just open to the public, where it's like, hey, are you a YouTuber? Do you have a library card? We have a full YouTube studio for you to use it anytime for free.
That's genius.
Yeah, so it's one of those things I would like, I'm going to drag you out here to do some videos too.
Oh my god.
So when you come, bring some of your equipment and, or just at least some of your laptops and prepare to do like a video out here.
If I had to go to the States or Canada or anything, you would know that I would have to grab my gear. Like, how could I not?
Yeah, I would love to drag you down to the Rooster Teeth Studios to see some of their setups as well too, and how they do things. Like, as for professional YouTubers, those guys do it beyond professional.
Yeah. You keep mentioning that. I always tell you that I'm super giddy, but here's an example of what I'm like every time you say that you want to invite me down there. This is, yeah. I'm sorry everyone had to see that.
Yeah, but no, your show's got so much potential. I would just love to see you have more money to just make it amazing.
Well, who knows? Maybe in the future, man.
No, because every little step you do is incredible. So, hope you can do more.
Me too, and thanks a lot. Anyway, Luke, it's been more than just a normal pleasure talking with you. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. It's been really, really fun talking with you. And hopefully this will give you some push for Button Mash and maybe someone else to join your site.
Yeah, please come read my comic, ballstothat.com.